Hello, hello, it's me, Arden Lee. I'm here today with another video. And in today's video, I want to talk about what to do when you're triggered. I'm making this video today because I have been hella triggered for the past 48 hours. And if there's one thing that I don't want to ever do in my videos, I don't want to switch on the camera and um, give you like some fake happy TV game show personality in order to, sell a course or a brand or whatever, I don't want to have to fake things anymore. So, so I'm just going to be really super honest about where I am. I've been really lucky that, people online have been really supportive of me, on my Facebook and everything. And by the way, if you're not yet connected with me on Facebook, there's a link to the Repatterning Parlor, which is a Facebook group that I moderate. It's in the description box. Go check that out, and you can definitely connect with me. And I'll just put this part in here because, of course, I put it in every video. You know the deal. Subscribe to my channel because I would love for you to be here with me. I want to stay connected with you. I want to have these conversations where we can be honest about what's going on in our lives and how to best cope with all of that going forward. And I also want to hear about what's useful for you. So hopefully today's video is useful for you as well. I'm hoping it's going to be useful for me. I want to talk a little bit about what happened. And I want to pull out the lesson that I learned from it, because no matter what goes on, the thing about our trauma is that in our, I'm not even going to say trauma, the thing about our emotions is that there's always a key in them. There is always a hidden truth in there somewhere. If we dig deep enough and if we look for the root of what's causing us to feel a certain way, and we maybe even dig even further and say, okay, I know it's causing me to feel this way now, but why is it so extreme? Is there even something that this relates to in my past that's coming up for me as well because this thing in the present happened? Maybe there's also something that I also haven't dealt with, and maybe actually this is giving me an opportunity to look at parts of myself that maybe I thought I healed, or maybe I haven't dealt with at all, and to give me the tools to deal with them going forward, and to put all that together. Because once I understand the belief system that I've been living under, that is making me, I'm not going to say my belief system is making me react a certain way, but why certain things feel dangerous, why certain things happen and just feel, completely debilitating to us, to the point where we can like lose 48 hours to just being triggered. We don't want to feel that way anymore. So when that happens, it's an opportunity for us to examine that and to look at what beliefs in ourselves we can free ourselves from, what past experiences we can have more opportunity to lay to rest. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened, and I actually think I talked about this a little bit in a video that I made yesterday. So it's possible that it's like this is like a a real-time lesson in being triggered, because I actually don't remember what I exactly what I talked about in yesterday's video, although I know I addressed it at some point. So if I'm repeating myself, please forgive me. But basically, something happened to me this past weekend where a song that I worked on with my band Arden and the Wolves, which is really my project. It's everyone I work with, I hire and they're under my creative direction. So it's really me at the end of the day. One of the tracks that I had a new song premiere over the weekend. I was really excited. I worked really hard on it. I spent a lot of money hiring a lot of other people to work really hard on it. I was so proud of how it all came together. And when it was premiered, someone who I had entrusted with the responsibility of handling the back end of the premiere leaked the wrong track, and it was one that was only half finished, and I felt immediately so endangered. I felt unsafe. I felt I've just been feeling awful the last 48 hours. When I found out what had happened, when I realized what had happened, it was pretty late on Saturday night, and I was up until 11 a.m. Sunday morning trying to get it fixed, writing up a statement. So even that, like even just getting triggered can fuck with your sleep schedule, and you can, you can get way off your game. Even just from something like that. And here I was, it was the Thanksgiving holiday was over. I was returning to Los Angeles to, start to dig into the next phase of my work. I had so many to-do lists, laid out for me for this week. And then I just got fucking slayed by this thing happening. And, in reality, if I didn't have triggers around my safety, around my privacy being exposed, around so many different things like that, then maybe I would have just yelled at the person who was responsible and been like, yo dude, fix this, and gone to bed. Maybe it wouldn't have felt that awful for me, but it did. It kept me up all night, and the amount of emotions that I felt in my body as a result were they created an obstacle to my ability to function and get things done. Like today, I was like, this is the last thing I want to do right now is make a video, because I feel so gross. I feel so, powerless and angry about all this stuff that is coming up for me, that I'm like, I don't feel like I can jump on in front of my camera and inspire people right now. Even right now, as I'm speaking, you're probably noticing that I'm having more trouble finding words than I normally do. And that's because I've been triggered as fuck for the last 48 hours. Because when we're in that state, our adrenaline spikes and we're so high that it's harder. It's like our lizard brain gets triggered, and it's harder for us to be back in our neocortex. So essentially, I'm jumping on today because a lot has been unearthed for me, and what I want to do is, I don't ever want to encourage anyone to, when you're feeling triggered, to just repress it and pretend like everything is fine. I used to do that a lot, and it really didn't help. At that time, certainly, though, also I was like, in the restaurant industry sometimes and stuff like that. I went through a ton of trauma while I was working in the restaurant industry, and sometimes going in the next morning and having to wait tables. Like sometimes you don't really have a choice, and I get that, and that's completely understandable and permissible. But I'm trying for myself. Virgil, get off the counter. Pardon. Hey. Sorry, he knows he's being bad. I want to make sure that I'm creating a life for myself where I don't have to do that anymore, where as long as I'm showing up authentically, I can own my feelings and I can work from wherever I am emotionally, as long as I'm responsible for not lashing out at other people or taking out my emotions on other people. But I want to be able to be present and honest about my emotions while I'm doing the work that I'm doing, which is why I'm doing this work, because that is so much more fulfilling to me, and so much more, it's just so much more conducive to my healing anyway, because I want to be honest, I want to be authentic. So anyway, so here I am making a video on what to do when you're triggered, and I don't want this to just be a video on like deep breathing and self-soothing in the moment. I want this to be a video about going into the emotion that you're feeling, and looking for the source and trying to heal it at the root. Because of course, if you're doing something like working in the service industry, and you do have to get through, of course, yeah, there's deep breathing, there's meditation, there's all sorts of grounding exercises to bring you back into the present moment. Maybe one day I will make a video about that. But right now, I want to make a video about the lessons that we have the opportunities to learn when we get triggered. And I'm going to do that by talking you through a little bit about what I have been doing for myself in these past 48 hours, and the things that I now know I have on my healing to-do list, So as I said, an unfinished track of mine got premiered instead of the correct track, and that brought up so many memories of 10 years ago when I had my privacy compromised in other ways. And I was working. I know I've told this story before. I'll just give the bare bones highlights. But I was working as a professional dominatrix in New York City. I was outed in the New York Post when the house I was working at was shut down. And in addition to that, I watched my email being hacked. That sounds like such a crazy tinfoil hat thing to talk about. But I did. I logged into my account. I noticed that details and things that I'd written were leaking and slipping out onto the internet, which was making me feel really unsafe. And one day I logged into my email account. I saw a message at the top of my inbox that was marked as read, even though I knew that I had not read it yet. And it was unfamiliar to me, and I clicked the refresh button, and immediately it went back to being marked as unread. And I knew at that moment that someone was in my email account, and that's how all these personal details about me were getting leaked online. And if you're not familiar, like sex workers, of which pro-doms are one kind, face a lot of threats of violence. And essentially what happened at that point was people were there was someone who had leaked basically the new place that I was trying to session. They leaked the address of my new session location, and basically for all intents and purposes told the internet to go find me and kill me. And that was scary. So when something that I've created, even if it is just a song, I know that I'm not gonna die from my rough track being released, even if it's embarrassing, even if it's like, I'm like, no, that's not the finished product. That's not what I put all of my time and effort into. That's not what I meant for you to see. Even if it's hard like that, I'm having this reaction in my body that far surpasses that. And I reached out to a friend of mine today. I reached out to Lex, who is the frontman of a band named Three Teeth. And he's really been he's been a good friend to me. He's been really willing to sit with me and talk a lot of band stuff together, because he has more experience in the music scene than I do. And so I'm grateful to him for that. And what I admire about him, and also like what frustrates the fuck out of me when I watch him, is I see how he does things, and he just has it really seems, at least in my perception, he really has no beliefs in him that he can't do something. He's just like, oh, I just do this, or I just do that, or I just, whatever. And I'm like, wow, can I hang out with you so I can absorb some of that? Because clearly I still have so much fear around so much of my success. So I was talking to him today about about what had happened to me over the weekend. And he was like, it's no big deal. It's like, you'll fix it. They'll get the right track put up on, on the blog or whatever. And, you'll explain to your fans, which I've already done or whatever. And as we're talking through this, and I'm talking about how I was like, I told him, I was like, I hang out with you a lot so I can absorb some of your confidence. I think, so much of what happened to me when I was a pro dom, 10 years ago now, was it instilled in me this belief that it's unsafe for me to have a public persona in which there are people who can feel that they have a personal relationship to me and hold up a fantasy that they expect me to live up to, and punish me for stepping outside of that. One of the things that happened to me when I was a pro dom is some of what was leaked. When my email was hacked, was I had made up this packet for the doms who worked at my house about how to market yourself as a dom. And that doesn't sound like a thing that people would be upset by, but how so many clients in the scene interpreted it was they were like, oh, she's a sociopath. She's going to hell because she's been lying to everyone this whole time. She's not really a dom. She's just a businesswoman. And I hope all of you clients out there who thought that your doms were, cared about you or whatever. I hope you now understand that, that this is just a business to them and they don't give a fuck about you. And for a good 3 weeks, half the posts on the message boards where we all used to go to fraternize with clients, half the posts on the front page of the message boards were about how I was a horrible, evil person and I was going to hell, and just, beyond contempt, quote unquote, like just like shocked and horrified, and whatever, like all the things that these people said about me was just like, it was awful. It was like, it was bullying before, it was cyberbullying before we really like talked about cyberbullying, before this is before this was still like the days of MySpace. So like Facebook was kind of just like taking off or whatever. So anyway, what I learned in processing a little bit with my friend Lex today was I was like, this looks so easy for you. And I finally, like, I bitched to him, and I bitched with the intention of being like, I'm putting this out here not to make an excuse for myself, but to show you and to show myself how different our experiences are, and the fears that I still need to conquer if I'm ever going to get to the place where you just kind of do your thing and you trust that it's all going to work out. And so I shared with him about how I got doxxed, how people essentially, tried to leak my location so that if I had any stalkers out there, that they could find me and kill me. At the same time, there was a dom in Philadelphia who had a client. It was like within the same 2-month period. She had a client stalk her at home in her driveway, and with a gun, shot her boyfriend to death, and then kidnapped her for 8 hours and drove her around until he finally killed himself. So that was like happening to me, or that was happening to someone else when all of that was happening to me. So essentially saying like, hey, here's where you can find her. That's a death threat. That's basically the same thing. So, so as I'm processing all of this, I'm like, well, no wonder I'm having so much fear and so much anxiety trying to step into my power with my band, and even with launching my business, and even with, I have this fear and anxiety when my clients reach out to me sometimes, that like, it's like before I even open their message, sometimes I'll be like, what did I do wrong? Like, did I piss someone off? Like who's mad at me? Oh my God, I'm so scared that someone is going to maybe like, sign up for my course and then be like, she's a scam or she's a ripoff or whatever. And because that to me is, it's not just a bad review somewhere. It's like in my body, my reptilian brain doesn't know any different. That's actually like, we're going to come and kill you. So I'm trying to work through that, and I'm trying to process through all that. And I'm like, wow, no wonder I've been having so much trouble in the past 10 years, really committing to putting things out there and committing to my own success. Why I diverted my power into my relationships instead, and yeah, of course, I published a book or whatever, but okay, great. But writing a book and publishing a book and going on TV felt very safe, whereas holding the container for groups of people, managing, my relationship with my fans and my music, or with my clients and my coaching, or even with people who are like potential clients, people who join, the free groups or whatever. I feel this thing that I really want to get rid of. I really want to dismantle. And I don't want to feel that fear anymore. I want to feel excited about it. I want to feel like, yes, this is very cool. But, it's like if I feel that procrastination or that resistance, I'm like, oh, now I remember where this is coming from. So, of course, everything this weekend happened in service of me so that I could learn what still needs to be healed and undone around here. So when I say what to do when you're triggered, essentially what I want to recommend to you is being able to sit with that and to be like, where is this emotion coming from? Partly this emotion for me, I'm like, partly this emotion is coming from the fact that having the wrong track leaked was an absolute violation, and I have every right to be angry about that in and of itself. But the reason it feels so big and so debilitating is because, oh right, it reminds me that 10 years ago, this very fall, I had other things of mine that were leaked without my consent, that actually led to to the end of my career, and to the end, as a pro dom, and to people slandering me online, and ultimately making, revealing where I was working at, so that people could go and kill me or rape me or whatever. And every time I feel like every time I've tried to move on from that, or whatever. There's still been something that's kind of that fear and resistance holding me back from really owning my power. Something that someone said about me on the message board that was actually quite sympathetic, but it's really a key to why specifically success is anchored to this for me, was someone said, weren't you guys just all like fawning over Mistress Arden like 2 weeks ago? Like, she was the one with the most positive reviews. She was the one who was like kicking ass and taking names. Like, she was like the Dom of New York City. And now it's like the tallest tree gets the axe, like you all loved her. And then you all wanted to take her down. And that's exactly what happened, because I was, I was a very popular Dom back then. I worked very hard at that. And sure enough, that's always stuck with me, that idea that the tallest tree gets the axe. So my responsibility now is to look at the belief that the tallest tree gets the axe, and try to, because I've been a tree trying to avoid the axe for a long time. And all of that has come up for me in the last 48 hours. Processing with Lex today was really helpful around that. So now that I've identified it, it's my responsibility to change it, which means I need to start looking for opportunities to be really excited, and looking for like that and also like that talk that I did with Harris O'Malley that's on my channel, Dr. Nerdlove. Where he talked about negative bias, negative impact bias, where we see all the negative things so much more strongly than we see the positive ones, and the ways that we have an opportunity to rewire that. I need to start looking at all the positive interactions that I've had with my clients, and all of the amazing reviews that people have written me. And oh, that's the problem, actually. It's not just about focusing on the positive, because it's the tallest. Do you see how I'm doing this? If the tallest tree gets the axe, then actually being the tallest tree is the thing that feels dangerous for me. So I actually have to remove the danger out of success, right? So it's like, actually, it's not just about focusing on the negative things that people either say about me or might say about me. It's actually removing the threat of being turned on. How can I do that? So anyway, that's my assignment. This video is already 22 minutes, so I'm gonna stop here. But essentially, what I want to summarize with is, when you get triggered, yes, of course, meditation, breathing, grounding techniques, all of those things are really helpful. But if you really want to use that as a teachable moment to go in and really rewire those things that are happening for you, like, do you want your trigger to be there forever and to always have to keep doing your deep breathing and grounding? Or do you want to actually look at it and say, why is this here? What happened, and how can I rewire that? So I need to start just bringing my conscious awareness. These things are like cockroaches. When you turn the light on, they all scurry away. Once you shine a light on something and bring it to the surface, it starts to move itself so often. Of course there are other modalities that you can use to get in and get there and be super specific about it and get that stuff moving right away. But bringing that awareness and setting the intention to change things, you'd be shocked how much that can move in and of itself. So my intention now is to start looking at the places where success feels dangerous to me, where having a public persona that people feel an emotional relationship of some kind to feels dangerous to me. Even if that's not a personal relationship, even if it's just like, wow, I love her videos, how does that feel scary for me? Like, what if I make a video about the wrong thing one day, and then someone all of a sudden, gets mad that I haven't lived up to their fantasy, and I don't know, decides to, tell people on the internet to kill me. I hope that obviously I hope that doesn't happen. But it is 2018, and we live in a world where there are incels, and I also I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't want to live in that fear. So it's on me now to look at all those areas where I associate success with danger, and to be conscious of them, to become aware of them, and try to remove that feeling. And the ways that I can remove that feeling, either I can go in and I can do that self-hypnosis, the timeline therapy that I do for my clients. I can do that on myself. I can also hire one of my other coaches to do that work with me. I absolutely believe in and having multiple modalities to attack beliefs that are really stubborn and kind of stuck or whatever. And so that's what I got right now. I need to go and repattern the idea that success comes with danger. I mean, success probably does come with danger, but the less I can align with that, the better it's going to be. My fear doesn't protect me. That's really it, honestly. It's the fact that my fear doesn't protect me. So, so that is the goal. So when you're triggered, I really invite you to start looking at where that's coming from, looking at where those emotions are coming from, remembering that other things that have happened to you in your past, that maybe this thing that's happening and triggering you in the present reminds you of. What else is you're like, if this feels just like this, right? That's what you want to go for. And that's where you can, use that as an opportunity to look at the places where you maybe have not completely healed from your past yet, and where you have an opportunity to free yourself from those imprints, the imprints that got put on you when those traumatic things happened in your past, and start to live from a place of freedom and sovereignty where you don't have to be bound by that anymore. So that's my intention for this week. I feel a little better already just making this video, so that's already an improvement. Thank you for staying present with me. And if you haven't already, I put the correct version of my song up on my YouTube channel. So if you've seen that, it's a super cool video also that's filmed by my awesome friend and coach Adam Lyons. And so if you haven't seen it yet, check it out, because that would also make me feel better about everything that happened this weekend. Leave me some nice words about it. I hope you like it. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you in the next video.